This is Taryn. I am back.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. The time now is 12:58 p.m. We do have interpreters and we do have Kathleen. We do have our chairman and Sachin Pavitran. We are still waiting on a few members.
Let's give it a couple more minutes. Just there's still people signing on.
There's still people coming in, Rose. So
I'm just saying this is a 2-minute warning and this is what I have. Okay.
Madam Chair, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sachin. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Taryn Williams, Chairwoman. Good afternoon, or for those who may be joining us from the West Coast, good morning, and welcome to the November 9th, 2022 Access Board meeting of the full board. My name is Taryn Williams, and I now call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to please turn off your cameras and mute your microphones unless you are speaking. I'd also like that you please state your name before speaking. I'm going to now ask Rosemarie to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rosemarie, Access Board staff. I will start the roll with Health and Human Services, Allison Barkoff. Karen Breitmeyer.
Present.
Department of Defense, Gilbert Cisneros.
This is Rosemary Selleck, standing in.
Thank you very much. Department of Justice, Kristen Clark.
Christina Galinda Walsh for AAG Clark, proxy to the chair.
Thank you very much. Department of Transportation, Christopher Coase.
Present.
Heather Dowdy.
Good morning, present.
Gregory Fairbach. Amy Hemra-
Greg Freibach, present.
Thank you. Amy Hemrawi.
Present.
Hannah Ibanez.
Present.
GSA Katie Kale.
Michael Fogel, GSA liaison, with standing in for Katie Kale and sending proxy to the chair.
Thank you very much. Alexis Kashar.
Present.
U.S. Postal Service, Benjamin Kuo.
Present.
KRU, Benjamin Nadolski.
Present.
Department of Education, Katie Neese.
This is Tanya Steller, representing Katie Neese with the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services in the U.S. Department of Education.
And I do have a proxy to the chair for from Department of Education.
Yes.
Yes, Veterans Affairs, Mike Parrish. Department of Commerce, Jeremy Pelter.
Hi, this is Monique Dismuke, in for Jeremy Pelter, proxy to the chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Victor Pineda. Victor Pineda. Madeline Ruvalo.
Present.
Rosa, I do see Victor on the list.
Okay, Deborah Ryan.
Present.
Karen Tamley.
Present.
Thank you. Department of Labor, Taryn Williams.
Present.
Housing and Urban Development.
Rex Space, Federal Liaison is present for Housing and Urban Development.
Okay, Department of Interior.
Excuse me, Sloan Farrell, for Department of Interior, proxy to the chair, please.
And let me go back to Health and Human Services. Do I have Allison Barkov?
Hi, yes, Allison Markov, present.
And I do believe I forgot Elver Arisa Silva. Elver?
Present. Yes, miss. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you, Rosemary. So we will now move forward to approval of the minutes, specifically the approval of the draft of the July 13th, 2022 meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the draft meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any- Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstained? The motion passes, no further action. We'll now move on to the executive director's report. So I will turn it over to Sachin. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there's one more vote for the bylaws committee.
Oh, I can move forward to do
Oh,
the,
sorry, you did that.
I have it as coming after the presentation, but happy to do that now.
Yeah,
move
yeah,
it.
if you don't, because, yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to call on Greg as chair of the special committee on bylaws.
Yes. Let me see, I got this. All right. We have the motion to pass for the bylaws. We have reviewed the bylaws and we have presented the bylaws. So today I'm asking for a approval of the new bylaws by the full board.
This is Debbie, so moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, do we do a roll call vote?
We should do a roll call. We need 17 votes.
All right.
Okay. let me, I'm sorry, give me 1 second to change. There we go. All right. This is Rosemary with the Access Board, starting the roll call vote to approve the bylaws as amended by the Bylaws Committee. Starting with Alvar Arisa Silva.
Aye. I approve. I vote.
Thank you. HHS, Allison Barkoff.
Aye.
Karen Brightmeyer.
Yes.
Department of Defense, Gilbert Cisneros.
Aye.
Department of Justice, Kristen Clark.
The AAG has given her proxy to approve.
This is Taryn, approve.
Department of Transportation, Christopher Coase.
Aye.
Heather Dowdy.
Aye.
Gregory Fairvac.
Aye.
Amy Hamraoui.
Aye.
Hannah Ibanez.
Aye.
General Services Administration, Katie Kale.
GSA has given proxy to the chair for approval.
This is Taryn Williams, aye.
Thank you. Alexis Kashar.
This is Alexis. I am opposed.
Postal Service, Benjamin Kuo.
Yay.
KR Liu. Benjamin Nadolski.
Aye.
Department of Education, Katie Nees.
I believe Taryn is her proxy.
That's correct.
That's correct. Aye.
Veterans Affairs. Department of Commerce, Jeremy Pelter.
Proxy to the chair.
This is Taryn Williams, aye.
Victor Pineda.
Aye. Victor Pitt, aye.
Thank you, Victor. Madeline Ruvillo.
Aye.
Deb Ryan.
Yes.
Karen Tamley.
Aye.
Department of Labor, Taryn Williams.
Aye.
Housing and Urban Development.
We're supportive, but we do not have a member of the vote.
Okay, great. Thank you. Department of Interior. Do I have anybody from Interior?
Sloan Farrell, proxy of the chair, please.
This is Taryn Williams, aye.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman and Madam Chair, the motion passes by majority.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
This is Taryn. Sachi, would you like to move to the executive director's reports prior to the committee reports?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for being flexible there. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our November business meeting of the U.S. Access Board. I'm Sachin Pavitran, the Executive Director of the Access Board. You just witnessed a passing of our bylaws. There's been some significant changes that has been made to the bylaws that has been under review for the last few months. So one of the big change that the bylaws is going to have is the number of meetings that the U.S. Access Board has each year. So currently Access Board has been having 6 meetings annually. The change is going to be shifted to 4 meetings annually, so every quarter. We are going to start reflecting that starting 2023. There will be a slight, there's going to be small timing differences when it starts shifting. For example, in 2023, the meetings is going to be January, March, July, and October. In the future, the meetings are going to consist of January, April, July, and October. So 4 meetings going forward starting 2023. There should be a notice coming out in regards to that in the near future. Thank you for all the board for your work on the bylaws. I know it was a pretty big undertaking, and I appreciate all the support. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing in regards to outreach to tribal nations. So that's been a big focus for us with a couple of executive orders that has been directing federal agencies on how we interact with different communities. For the Access Board, we've been focusing quite a bit in how can we improve our outreach, not just to tribal nations, but underserved communities at large. So that's been a big focus for us. We've been outreaching to other federal agencies who have those communities that they work with directly, and have been engaged in conversations with the Department of Interior, HHS, who has projects directly associating with the tribal nations. It's an ongoing project that we have, and it's an important work that we're doing, and we want to continue that work that we are trying to do, so that we can make sure we hear from the communities under the tribal nations with all the work that the Access Board is doing, but also to better inform the regulations that we are working on. We continue to work with our federal partners who have federal buildings in tribal lands, such as GSA, the USPS, and we're reaching out to IRS and Homeland Security, who possibly can also help us in advancing some of our ABA related work, so that accessibility of federal spaces in those areas are addressed. The executive order under DEIA, which has had a lot of spotlight in the last year, Access Board continues to outreach to federal agencies in providing resources so that we can help in any kind of accessibility conversation that the federal agencies are engaged in. All federal agencies have issued strategic plan around the DEI effort. Access Board stands as a resource for anything in the built environment and also the digital environment, so that we want to ensure any product coming out of the federal government is accessible. But we're also looking inwards as far as the U.S. Access Board itself is concerned. We want to make sure the work that we do internally with our staff is also in good standing with what the DEIA executive order is calling for. We have contracted with an entity to provide training for Access Board staff on DEI efforts, so that we have a better understanding agency-wide on what we need to keep in mind in the work that we do that impacts diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, moving on to rulemaking. So we have a very aggressive agenda for the next couple of years on our rulemaking. There's 5 rules that we are trying to get to the finish line by December of 2024. The first one is the Public Rights of Way Accessibility Guidelines, which is probably our largest rule that we are trying to wrap up. And our hope is to have this finalized and sent to OMB for their review beginning of 2023. So stay tuned. That should be coming pretty soon. Staff has been diligently working together with Department of Justice and Department of Transportation so that we can address all the different comments that we have received. We are finalizing the preamble. The rule text is pretty much finalized and should be in the next couple of weeks receiving our regulatory assessment so that we can send the entire package to OMB in the next couple of months. Self-service transaction machine is another rule that an ANPRM has been sent out. This came out in September, so there is still public comment period open for the SSTM ANPRM. So please encourage your colleagues and anyone who you think has expertise in this space to share their comments for the ANPRM. So self-service transaction machine is an important topic with all the kiosk and self-checkouts that we have been seeing, especially since COVID. There's been a huge increase in these kind of transaction machines. Medical diagnostic equipment is another rule that we're trying to finalize in the next few months. We have concluded our comments and we are in the process of releasing our NPRM, and this should be happening in the next few months as well. So stay tuned for that as well. Earlier this year, we released a technical requirement document on EV charging stations. So that work was so that we can have some information out there with all the EV charging stations that is being built right now. The Access Board is undertaking a rulemaking on EV charging stations so we can address the accessibility barriers that EV charging stations might have in the future. So that process has started right now, and we will be hearing more about EV charging stations and rulemaking in the near future. The last one I want to touch on is the rail vehicle accessibility guidelines. We have been working on this particular rule for the last couple of years. We have been going through the comments that has been received, and our hope is to finalize this rule as well in the next couple of years. So those are the 5 rules that the Access Board is engaged in the next couple of years. And our hope is to bring it to a final rule by December 2024. Now I'm going to turn on to ABA, Architecture Barriers Act, our enforcement on the ABA. Since July 3rd through September 30th, we have received 62 complaints. We closed 42 complaints, out of which 9 were closed by corrective actions. In the fiscal year 2022, that's October of 2021 to September 30th of 2022, we have received 241 complaints, closed 197 complaints, out of which 45 of those were with corrective actions. 7 of those complaints were in DoD or Veterans Affairs facilities. 5 of them were GSA leased facilities, and 31 of them were USPS facilities. Technical assistance is another program that we offer. In the last fiscal year, we've answered 4,582 unique inquiries that has come to our TA lines via email or through phone. We have finished 4 technical assistance guides. So one of them is a laboratory and sinks, sauna and steam room, washing machine and clothes dryers, and sign TA guides. And all these are available on our website. We've also, as I said earlier,
I'm on a call right now. Can you see if someone else can take him?
Michael, you might want to mute your microphone. Earlier this year in July, we did release a technical requirement document, a technical document on EV charging stations as well, which I mentioned earlier. Trainings, we continue to do trainings. In the last fiscal year, we have conducted 105 trainings, which is a 23% increase since last year. We have reached over 21,000 audience in this last fiscal year trainings, which is a increase of 13%. We have most of these trainings have been virtual. We are starting to do some in-person trainings. In fact, during our out-of-town board meeting in September in Philadelphia, we had 8 in-person trainings that took place in conjunction with the board meetings in Philadelphia. The next, I want to report on our engagement with the with GAO, Government Accountability Office. I mentioned in the last board meeting, we have been working with GAO with a engagement that started in May. We have had extensive conversation back and forth with GAO, providing documentations for questions that they have brought to our attention. In October, we have met with GAO 3 times. The topics that were covered in those 3 meetings were in relation to 508, complaints under ABA, Architecture Barriers Act, and the work that we're doing under Public Rights of Way Accessibility Guidelines and our association with Department of Justice and Department of Transportation. I see the work that we're doing with GAO, the engagement with GAO, as a very healthy conversation that the staff has been having with GAO. It's a moment of self-reflection for our agency to see where we can better improve the work that we do and how we can advance the work that we do in order to help people with disabilities to make accessibility a high priority. Staffing, we have a few different staffing changes going on. There's a few announcement that has gone out for new staff that's being hired. There's an accessibility specialist position that's in the process of wrapping up. We have an events and communication specialist position that's open that is being circulated as well. Another one is a position for a financial manager. So those are some of the staffing changes that's in process right now. The last thing I want to touch on in regards to staffing is an announcement of a retirement by our colleague, Mr. William Barton. Bill Barton has announced his retirement pending, December 31st of this year. Bill will be retiring December 31st of this year. Bill's been part of U.S. Access Board since 2000. He's been a huge asset for our agency and is definitely well sought after with all the trainings that Bill's been doing throughout the country for the last 2 decades. Bill is well respected in the work that he does in outdoor recreation, and has done trainings in almost every state except for Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So Bill, you got a month and a half left to cover those 3 states to hit all 50 states there. So Bill is someone that we respect a lot. He's definitely a huge asset that will be walking out from the Access Board, but we appreciate everything he has done for us and for people with disabilities over the last many decades. And I want to give Bill some time to address the audience as well. Bill?
Thank you, Sachin. I hope you can all hear me, and thank you for your kind words. It is with a heavy heart that I am leaving. I enjoy this opportunity greatly, and as Sachin said, it's been more than 2 decades now, where I've had the great pleasure to represent the Access Board around this country and promote inclusion and better access for everybody. And I think about the first few times I went out and how nervous I was and how it's progressed. And I really believe that this agency taught me more than I've ever taught anybody anything. It's been such a unique opportunity. I grew up in a rural atmosphere in central Kansas and never knew anybody with a disability until it was me. And to think that I've had the opportunity over this career to make just a small impact on the inclusion in outdoor environments and the opportunity to promote accessibility in so many different ways. I think about the airline issues we've struggled with, and passenger vessels, and working on rails, and just so many different issues. It goes way beyond just recreation and outdoor for me. And I have to say, probably the most proud area that I am that we've worked on at the Access Board is play areas. I really believe that it's in the play area where we really begin that integration and inclusion of people with disabilities. And we've got to make sure that our play areas in every school around this country are accessible to everybody, and that we start at a very young age promoting that level of accessibility and integration. I'm going to miss the staff and the board. It's been a part of my life and a part of my family's life. They hear about me talking about this every night. So I just want to say that I'm going to continue to advance access in my life forward. But it's been a great opportunity, and a pleasure has really been mine to work for an agency that is so forward thinking and that promotes this level of inclusion. It's really been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure to be a part of it. And I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the future, maybe at a happy hour Access Board picnic in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Like I said, Bill is the work Bill has done is well respected around the country, and he's probably a trainer that gets that we get the most requests for. So, Bill, thank you for everything you have done, and I'm sure you will find ways to keep busy and to promote accessibility. So, thank you, Bill. With that, Madam Chair, I will turn the time back to you unless there's any questions for me.
Thank you, Sachin. So now we're going to move to our guest presentation, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Ms. Amy Nieves, Philadelphia Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. Many of you will remember her from our September Out of Town event in Philadelphia. She is here to repeat her presentation to the full board today on the Philadelphia Disabilities Characteristics Map. The map provides a visual representation of Philadelphia's population of persons with disabilities by census tract. The map, which was developed in collaboration with people with disabilities, is being used as a planning tool for local government services. And Ms. Nieves will discuss the background, developmental process, and usage of the map. And I know you have, I believe, a hard stop at 2 p.m. So we want to make sure we get directly to the presentation. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Taryn, and thank you all for being here today. It is my pleasure. Again, my name is Amy Nieves. I am the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, and I've actually invited a colleague of mine, Daniel Warner, who will also be joining with me to share a little bit about this work. He is the lead GIS analyst for our City Commissioner's Office here in Philadelphia. Dan and I often talk about that, you know, I brought the vision and he was the builder. And I really do believe that systems and social change can happen when dreamers and innovators come together with the builders. And so we are really proud to share a project that we worked on together, which is the Disability Characteristics Map of Philadelphia. On your screen is a visual representation of what the map looks like on the website. And so this is our wonderful city. And you'll see that every neighborhood is highlighted in a radiant shade of blue, from a very pale blue to a very dark blue. And this correlates the representation of people with disabilities in those census tracts and neighborhoods. This is one of my favorite disability activist quote from Elsa S. Henry, that representation matters because there's a richness to disability you're probably not aware of. And so because this was in collaboration with Dan and I want to give him an opportunity to share just a little bit about the history of how we brought this tool to where it is today. Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. The first version of this map was actually created in 2019 by the Philly Counts Disabilities Subcommittee team as a tool to promote participation in the 2020 census within the disability community. And we knew to do that effectively, we were going to have to know where in Philadelphia that people with disabilities were located. And then we would be able to equip community organizations and a variety of people with the information they needed to be able to engage with the disability community here in Philadelphia effectively. Since then, and because of Amy's dream, as she mentioned, the tool has actually been adapted into a permanent publicly accessible tool that is featured directly on the mayor's Office of People with Disabilities website, which is really wonderful. And the map utilizes the most recent Census Bureau data and visualizes it essentially onto a map using GIS technology. And as Amy already mentioned, the project was designed and led with people with disabilities every step of the way. Okay, and the updated map was actually completed in January of 2022, along with a user guide that are both featured directly on the Mayor's Office with People of Disabilities webpage. And throughout 2022 and 2023, the map is going to be shared and utilized both internally and externally through the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. And something that's really exciting is that there have been and will continue to be accessible community engagement sessions offered to view and explore the map. And something that Amy and I were just talking about yesterday, actually, is that updates to the map will be ongoing as census data is updated and voting districts are updated. So it can always have the most recent information about Philadelphia. And
Thanks
I'll pass
so
it back to you.
Thanks. So why does this project matter? Well, it matters because Philadelphia actually has one of the highest prevalence rates of disability of any large US city at 16.7%, which is about approximately 250,000 residents that we know of that completed the Census Bureau. We all know individuals aren't always counted in the census, and we're actually hoping to utilize this to help us ensure that more people are counted as we move forward with that. Philadelphia is also one of the poorest US cities. And so we know that the data shows us that cities that experience high rates of disability often experience high rates of poverty as well. And I really do believe that racism, ableism, and poverty are all interconnected, and that by ensuring that people with disabilities are represented in those spaces of addressing them and accessibility, that we can address them together. Additionally, people with disabilities, as we know, 19.1% of them were employed in 2021, in counterparts to those without disabilities at about 63%. 40% of the US prison population currently holds people with disabilities. About 25% of those incarcerated also receive special education services in their K through 12 education. About 14.7% of individuals with disabilities are identified as Black or African American. And so we know that race and disability absolutely intersect. There is an 18.2% education gap in accessing higher education degrees, and about 31% of people with disabilities report being in poor or failing health. And that actually elevates if you also identify as a person of color. So we created it with the idea that there would be two distinct tracks of who we were targeting around engagement. So the first was city council members, city departments, and city leadership. We really wanted to shift that conversation about the representation of people with disabilities in their districts, how they interact with the city leadership, and really upholding our office's responsibility under Title II of the ADA of access to government programs. And so we really wanted to make sure that they had a better understanding of what the accessibility needs of their residents may be by doing it in this visual demonstration. And the map really helps us to take it that, yes, 16.7% of Philadelphians are people with disabilities, but that is not a monolithic experience in every neighborhood or every area of the city. And so the map helps us kind of shift that. Additionally, we didn't want this to just be an in-house project. We wanted this to be accessible to anyone that wants to access the data. And so we wanted to make sure that people with disabilities were actually the leading representation of the map in the project, so that the data can be used to better understand Philadelphia's diversity, and also wanted to equip our community organizations to use the data in their own work. So as we've mentioned a couple times, and the board members have all received a PDF version of this presentation, but people can access the map on our website or go to the ArcGIS website directly as well. There's no account or subscription needed to access the map. It's digital, it's interactive, and it allows users to explore it using Census Tract with a collection of other geographic and data layers that are very unique to Philadelphia. And most importantly, we really wanted to make sure it was available to everyone. So as we've mentioned, the data comes from the American Community Survey from the 2015 to 2019 5-year plan or subject table on disability characteristics. And while we know that there's lots of changes to how it's being reported, we do believe that this is one of the best, most up-to-date data sets that we can utilize to show the representation of our city. And so just some background for those that might not be familiar, the American Community Survey asked about 6 disability types with the language of difficulty. And I believe, just personally as a person with disabilities, that this is meant to be a more inclusive way of capturing people, because people identify differently, are experiencing it differently, and this is a way to capture everyone. So in relation to hearing, vision, cognitive, ambulatory, self-care, and independent living are the 6 categories that are represented within the map. And we wanted to make sure that people understood that this map also shows the cross-disability representation, because we know not everyone has just one disability. We often experience many of them. And as a neurodivergent living with deafness and other disabilities for myself, this is a way that I am represented in the map, and so are others. So the data layers include several different layers. We have strategically made the landing page be our city council districts, so that we're really making sure that our city leadership understands the diversity within their districts based on disability. You can see it by zip codes. You can change the view by neighborhood. Neighborhoods are very important to Philadelphians. Our House districts, our Senate districts, and our congressional districts as well. You can also see it by the population percentages, and you can also break down disability percentages by specific disability, age, race, and Hispanic origin. And it is our understanding that there is no other map currently available that brings this data and brings that intersectional lens of people's experiences together in one place in an easy to use tool. So when you're going to come to the map, you can navigate it with a mouse. And we have engaged all accessible features on the GIS software landing page. We're hoping to work with them to expand what that might look like, to make sure that it isn't, it's a more navigatable with screen readers. There are elements that are, but there's always room for improvement. So as I mentioned earlier, the color of the neighborhoods go from this gray color, which is other, which is traditionally non-residential areas, so like our airports, and then a pale blue is 0 to 10%, a light blue is 10 to 20, medium blue is 20 to 30%, Dark blue is 30 to 40, deep blue is 40 to 50%. And so one of the things too is we wanted to keep it very simple. So the tool is meant to be very simplistic to use and look at. We wanted to keep the views very clear so that the data could be most highlighted. If you want to change the view, it's simple to just go through by layers, and there's a screenshot of what that might look like, where you can decide you want to look at all the geographical overlays at the same time. You certainly can, or you can do one at a time. We do suggest that you choose to either look at age, race, and Hispanic origin by disability or types of disability separately. It just makes it a little easier for you to see them, but you can, I'm going to demonstrate for you in a moment how you can toggle back and forth. So when you go to a specific neighborhood, so here there's a screenshot of it by age in this particular census tract neighborhood that's showing the total population with disability. You can see it by age, by race, and Hispanic origin. And so you can also look at it in counts, percentages, and interactive charts. As I mentioned, it's best to kind of pick which view you want to look at first to keep them more easily to use. And we also made sure that you could share the map, either a specific view of the map. So if you're saying, oh, wow, I'm looking at this one neighborhood, I really want to talk to the Department of Education about this. You can actually just, when you are viewing that, you can go click to share this map and it'll share that specific view, not just the main landing page. So that makes it also an easier to use tool. So now I'm just going to demo to you and narrate a video where here we have a user that's clicking on a neighborhood. This is actually one of our neighborhoods that actually has 42.6% of the residents are people with disabilities. So again, as I mentioned, that experience of us being the highest percentage rate at 16.7, that is not the same experience in every neighborhood. And it's something that's really changing how we look at this data more intently around disability representation. And so of this neighborhood, there's about 4,900 folks, about 2,000 of them are people with disabilities. And then we can see the breakdown by disability type here. And as I mentioned, that cross-disability representation is, and I won't read off all these numbers, but if you were to just look at this, you can see that that adds up to a lot more than 2,000, right? And that's because cross-disability representation is so vital for us to understand that people are not living with one disability, they're living with multiple disabilities. And so as you can see, a lot of folks also identify as having difficulty with living independent lives. And this is helping us change that conversation. So as I just demonstrated, I've clicked from type of disability to now looking at that same exact neighborhood by age, race, and Hispanic origin. So now again, you see those total populations. I'm going to freeze it here and show you that individuals aged 5 to 17 are school age folks. About 14.6% of this neighborhood are people with disabilities. And then our workforce age groups of 18 to 34, 35 to 64, and even some 65 to 74-year-olds, you can see this equates to well over 60% of those with disabilities in this neighborhood are in our workforce kind of age group. And so this would be a good neighborhood for us to be doing some employment work, but there was zero known 0 to 5 individuals with disabilities in this particular neighborhood at the time. And so this might not be the neighborhood where we do the pop-up about early intervention, but it's certainly one where we should be doing some employment work. And so again, as you scroll down, you can then also see on this by race. And so this neighborhood, it breaks down by the census identifying categories of race of white, African-American, Asian, American Indian, Alaskan, and Native populations. And then it will also do Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, and they use the language of some other race. And here, this neighborhood is 55.4 of folks that are identifying by that on their census responses, and 89.3% of this neighborhood identify as Hispanic or of Latin origin. It's just demonstrating what the pie chart might look like. So it breaks down the data in these easy to understand pie charts. I will tell you, I have done this for government officials, and even yesterday we did a virtual field trip with a 5th grade class. So 5th graders can use this all the way up until legislative users. And I really believe that that's what we're talking about universal design, is that everyone has an ability to interact with this type of data and information. And so some of the highlights about this is the first of its kind. It's very innovative, and yet we've kept it very, very simple. And it's very important to me that people with disabilities, every person on the team, every part of the way that we informed it by community engagement, have been people with disabilities leading this project. Several of our major city hospital systems are already utilizing this. I've trained our police department, our fire department. I've used this with our Office of Emergency Management to impact our city's FEMA 5-year plan for emergency preparedness. It's changing how we're looking at our racial equity work, and it's co-powering departments to do more around engagement on accessibility and inclusion like they've never done before. And I couldn't be prouder of the project that just came from 2 people talking about what would it look like if we could show the disability representation of our city. And this is what has come in less than 1 year's time of this project. So I want to highlight just 4 quick really cool highlights. I mentioned our hazard mitigation planning that we've done with the Office of Emergency Management and their emergency preparedness. But we also utilize this with the Philadelphia Department of Commerce and Streets to inform the Philadelphia Streetery regulations. Coming in January, Philadelphia will be moving to a license program for streeteries. And in the past, guidance might have included must comply with all applicable laws. And we utilized this over the last year to really inform those regulations to be more specific about ADA guidelines, and also show streets and commerce and restaurant owners and business owners why it's important to pay attention to the access needs of the community around you. And that you are literally not only leaving out your community members by not building these streeteries accessible, you're literally leaving money on the table. Because I don't know if you knew this, but people with disabilities do eat and go out in the community to enjoy it. And so we want to make sure that they also have an equitable experience. And so it's really shifted how those conversations have gone of why it matters that we prioritize not only compliance, but just good access and inclusion in that space. We've used this with our Parks and Rec department in their Rec for All inclusion plan. This was a huge part of creating that plan with them, to show where people live and what the access needs might be for those recreation centers to prioritize their planning. And lastly, we use this through an internal grant program called the Operations Transformation Fund. And actually our office was able to apply and received a $300,000 grant to help us address some of our low cost and no cost corrective actions, so that we can do a more targeted approach to making sure that City Hall and other buildings are not only compliant, but fully accessible and navigatable by our community at large. And we also had the opportunity to train all the other grant recipients on the map so that they could better understand how they could do more around accessibility. And so it has really taken off, and we're just so excited to see what it looks like. One other application is this has been informing more equitable board recruitment efforts, not only for the Mayor's Commission with people with disabilities, but also 2 of our statewide councils here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Developmental Disabilities Council and the statewide Independent Living Council. And so I've utilized this map to kind of shift conversations around how do we start to look at diversity representation of even the Commonwealth. So even though there's not one of the Commonwealth right now, it's coming, I hope, after today's presentation. We wanted to just show what it means to really connect and plug into the disability representation of the community. This made sure to change how we prioritize engagement, job postings. What does it look like to apply? Could people submit a ASL video submission? Yes, absolutely. And so the outcome that came from these efforts was we saw significant growth in applicant pools with direct live experience and more intersectional identities than ever before that really truly align with the diverse representation, particularly of Philadelphia. And then the other impact was that we saw a decrease in ally applications. And don't get me wrong, allyship is absolutely vital and needed. But I have always said there's a fidelity in the lived experience of people that can never be duplicated. So this is just a graph demonstrating people have shared back with us how they've used the map. About 10% are using it for emergency planning. About 10% have been utilizing this for grant funding, which is wonderful because that's investments in our community. Accessibility efforts have gone up about 15%, informing work plans, 15%, increasing awareness. 25% of folks are utilizing it in that way, and 25% are directly using this in their outreach and engagement efforts with residents directly. And I just couldn't ask for a better outcome, especially in the first year. I can't wait to see what it unlocks for the future. So with that, we want to give some time to the board members to ask us questions. And, you know, I just want to say that I really do want to go back to that Elsa S. Henry quote of representation does matter because there's a richness to disability you're probably not aware of. So that's it for the presentation. Our contact information is connected in the slides. I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter on the link that's on the screen, which is https://bit.ly/MOPD news. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Amy, for that presentation. And I'll now ask if there are any members with questions for Amy. Any members? And I know we're also monitoring the chat with some positive feedback from the public. Well, Amy, again, thank you so much for the presentation and all the great work that you're doing in Philadelphia. We appreciate you taking the time today. I know you have a hard stop at 2 o'clock, so we will bid you farewell, but know that as you're departing, that there are lots of folks giving you feedback
Thank you.
in our chat.
I did want to give Dan an opportunity to share how other municipalities might be able to duplicate this if they're interested in learning more and reaching out to us. So Dan, if you wanted to just share a little bit about what it could look like to do this for any city, municipality, would you do that?
Yeah, of course. I think the beauty of this is that, you know, any municipality or state or, you know, government at any level could probably recreate this with tools that they already have. It's using really publicly accessible data and just making it, you know, more accessible to the folks who need to use it. So if you want to have like a more in detailed conversation about that, you know, feel free to send me an email. But yeah, I think one of the great things is it's incredibly duplicatable for anyone who'd be interested.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for joining us today. And I'm now going to ask if our vice chair can take over chairing the meeting. I know that next on our agenda is our standing committee reports. So Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, Madam Chair. Be safe, and I'll be happy to shepherd it at least half as good as you can. So I will move forward with our standing committees. And the first standing committee report for today is the Technical Programs Committee. And it's a pleasure to call on my colleague, Deb Ryan, from Providence, Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, we had a great Technical Programs Committee meeting where the staff provided the FY 2022 year-end technical assistance program and the training program report. Scott Winley and Bill Barton did a great job highlighting the number of technical assistance requests responded to by the staff, as well as the number of trainings and webinar presentations that have been conducted by the board staff throughout the year. Following the staff program update, we had a great presentation by senior staff from Amtrak. The Amtrak presentation presented information on progress for their accessibility programs and initiatives with the focus on the Amtrak ADA Stations Program, the Passenger Information Display System, accessible boarding technologies for improvements to existing trains, as well as features of the future trains. Additionally, they shared some updates about the expansion of their accessibility office and additional opportunities for improvement. And that is the end of my report. If there are any questions. I don't see any. That concludes the report, and I turn it back to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. We'll now move on to the Planning and Evaluation Committee. And it's my pleasure to call on my dear friend Karen Tamley from Chicago. Karen?
Great, thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Tamley. I'm the chair of the Planning and Evaluation Committee. Before I report on this week's committee meeting, I'd like to just take a moment to talk a little bit about the board's 2022 out-of-town meeting, which we held in September 13th through the 15th in Philadelphia. So the purpose of the board's out-of-town meeting is really to learn about the state of accessibility around the country. This was the board's first meeting to Philadelphia, and staff put together a really packed agenda for us that included site visits and a town hall meeting and several opportunities for the board to hear from and interact with disability advocates, leaders, and persons with disabilities in Philadelphia. We just heard a moment ago from Amy Nieves of the Philadelphia Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, the characteristic map that they developed. This was just one example of the really innovative problem solving that we saw in Philadelphia. I want to give you a brief rundown of the events and activities that the board took part in during our 3-day visit. So we held a town hall meeting at Liberty Resources. That's Philadelphia's Center for Independent Living. It was really well attended with members testifying about a range of concerns. Some of these concerns included accessibility barriers at a post office, accessibility issues at the public right-of-way, lack of services for adults with developmental disabilities, lack of communication access at medical appointments, job interviews, and on public transportation, unavailability of accessible at-home COVID tests, and accessibility in the city's numerous historic buildings. In addition to the town hall meeting, we visited several sites. We met with local organizations, and we heard from people with disabilities on a range of topics. So first, we visited Temple University and attended a panel on accessible design for neurodivergent individuals put together by Roger Adeshi of George Washington University and the Temple University Institute on Disability. The panelists provide a breadth of insight into the experiences of neurodivergent people and their interactions with the built environment. We also visited the National Park Service's Independence Historical National Park. And at the National Park, board members met with National Park Service staff to learn about the accessible features of Independence Hall, Congress Hall, and the Liberty Bell. Board members observed the challenges involved in making these historic structures accessible to people with disabilities. The board also learned about the Park Service's current efforts and future plans to enhance the accessibility of the park. We attended an impressive demonstration of emerging accessible technology for the arts, put together by ArtReach, which is a Philadelphia organization that seeks to make art accessible to everyone. We experienced a demonstration of the Vibro-Textile wearable technology developed by an organization called Music Not Impossible, which strives to provide shared experiences at concert events for hearing and deaf attendees. The wearables consist of battery-powered wireless harness. It's like a vest with 2 wristbands and 2 ankle bands that supply 8 distinct areas of different levels of vibrations across a user's body. The vibrations and the lighting work in sync with the mood and experience of a concert's music or the film's sound effects. The board also tried out smart caption glasses. The glasses allowed theater goers to view a live transcript of a scene and avoid having to shift their view away from the action to read opened or closed captions. Both of these technologies have been used on a limited basis, but both are expected to become more widely available in the next year. So keep your eye out for that. The board also participated in a discussion forum with Philadelphia Parks and Recreation Commissioner Catherine Ott Lavelle and local community organizations. The board learned about the challenges that the Philadelphia Parks and Rec is addressing in their efforts to make its large parks and recreation systems more accessible to people with disabilities. In addition, the board toured Inglis Innovation Center, which is a community space that supports independent community living for people with disabilities throughout the day, day programming, adaptive technology, and employment services. A highlight was Inglis's Assisted Technology Lab, where the research and development team uses 3D printers to create customized accessible devices, such as remote controllers and kitchen utensils when requested by local residents with disabilities. The board also enjoyed an inclusive meditation with movement demonstration from Danceability master teacher Connie Vendakaris, and an art show featuring artists with disabilities coordinated by Disability Pride PA. So as you can imagine, it was a really busy week. It was extremely informative and really inspiring. We look forward to continuing the relationships that we made in Philadelphia and continuing to work to promote accessibility throughout all segments of our society. So back to this week. On Monday, the Planning and Evaluation Committee met to debrief our experience in Philadelphia and to discuss possible locations for a 2024 out-of-town meeting. The board members will develop proposals for specific locations, and we expect to make our decision in early 2023. I also invited board members to take some time at our January committee meeting to share their priorities for their time on the board. We look forward to hearing from all of our board members at the January Planning and Evaluation Committee on that topic. Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Karen. Appreciate the report and the information. All right, next is the budget report, and I believe I'm the chair of the budget committee, and so I will give a brief budget report for this last year. The Access Board completed its fiscal year having expended, this is important, 96.6% of its appropriated amount of $9,775,000 worth of its funds. The unused funds in other budget categories were directed toward funds in a mandate project to desensitize critical paper records, or digitize, sorry, critical paper records, contract for services to develop security policies, and to hire a marketing consulting firm to assist with developing outreach strategies. That was the FY 2022 budget. The FY 2023 budget requests. In July, the House passed a consolidated appropriations bill, including $9,085,000 for the Access Board. And in FY 23, this amount was requested by the President. No formal action has been taken by the Senate to advance this bill at this time. The president signed a continuing resolution, CR, on September 30th, providing funding for the federal government through December 16th. So we'll be waiting to see what Congress does after that. Lastly, the FY 2024 budget request. The Access Board submitting a funding request to the Office of Management and Budget on September 21. Per OMB, the request budgets were prepared at 3 levels. First, at the 5% below the president's FY 2023 budget amount. The second, they were at a level funding with the president's FY 2023 budget. And the third, at our full requested level, which is $9,955,000. At the urging of both Congress and the OMB, our budget at all 3 levels reflect that some of our meetings will be conducted virtually. So we have anticipated that we will receive a pass back from OMB in December or January. And once we receive the confirmation of the amount to be included in the president's FY 2024 budget, we will prepare our budget justifications to Congress at that time. So we are on track and doing what we feel is in keeping with Congress and the OMB, and we will continue to hold the course on our budget spending, etc. And that is my report on the budget committee. Do we have any questions with regard to that budget report? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to the frontier issues. And it's my pleasure to call upon Alexis Kashar and Tim Craig and staff reporting on the frontier issues that we have. Alexis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I am Alexis Kasher. Oh, and I can't see my interpreter. Hold on one second. Great. I have to see my interpreter. So I am the chair of the Frontier Issues Committee, and really that committee focuses on emerging technology. At Tuesday's meeting, we have the Frontier Issues Committee. We heard a presentation from the Zeotag Corporation, which is an AI-driven accessible video platform that has the goal of providing searchable assets that may benefit people who need this support. Presenters Jeffrey Paul and Teresa de Andrade explained how Zeotag and their proprietary technology produces a transcript from a video and extracts thoughts, ideas, and concepts contained within this video to create an actionable table of contents. And that table of contents includes chapters and subchapters, which makes it more quickly searchable. It also contains segments and talking points that can also be indexed and organized. The presenters indicated that the Zeotag technology can turn any educational video, such as lectures and classroom trainings, into powerful, searchable, and navigable research and educational resources by giving users and viewers direct control over the navigation and viewing experience. For example, a screen reader user can hear the audio descriptions of the summaries prior to playing the video. It was a really nice presentation, and we really appreciated them being with us yesterday. That concludes my report. Are there any questions? And I cannot see if anybody has their hand raised, so I'm depending on staff to tell me if there is a hand raised.
I don't see any hands.
There are no hands.
Okay.
No hands.
Then back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the report. We greatly appreciate the Frontiers report. We now have the ad hoc committee section reports of our agenda. And we did the special committee on bylaws first thing at the meeting at 1 o'clock. And we had the passing of the bylaws at that particular moment and through the vote. So we can move on then to the next segment, and that's the special committees on outreach. And I believe Mr. Phil Brada is going to handle that for KR. So Phil.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fairbach. Yes, this is Phil Brada, Public Affairs Specialist at the Access Board and Staff Liaison to this committee. In the absence of KR Lou's presence, I will provide the committee's report. At today's meeting of the Special Committee on Outreach, the board heard about preliminary research for the communication and outreach strategy and plan, including general identification of stakeholders and audiences, quantitative data collection, and approaches to media analysis. The board also heard about staff meetings with the Georgetown firm, a contractor recently acquired to assist in the development of a marketing plan for the agency. The committee will continue research for the communication and outreach strategy and plan over the next couple of months. If there are no questions at this time, that concludes my report, and I can turn it back to you, Vice Chair Fairbach.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We appreciate that report. All right. Now we move to federal agency updates. And the floor is open to any federal members or federal member liaisons who wish to present any announcements or volunteer any information for presentation to the board and the general public. Anyone from the federal agencies that would like to present? All right, very good. Thank you, and appreciate your work that you're doing throughout the year with your agency.
Greg?
And yes,
Hey, this is Randy Cooper. I'd like to just make a few remarks if I may.
please do, Randy.
Thank you, sir. So I just would like to announce publicly, formally to the board that this will be my last meeting as the director representing Department of Defense, as the director for Disability, Equal Opportunity Policy and Compliance. I've accepted a new job as the director of the Computer Electronic Accommodations Program. And I just want to thank the board and the staff from the Access Board for the years of support and coordinating with ODEI, with the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness and DoD in general. We have worked with many of the staff on our Section 504 regulation, our Section 508 regulations, facilitating the resolution of the Architectural Barrier Act complaints. And I want to close with Rosemary Salak, who is the Disability Program Manager at the U.S. Department of the Army, was a part of the roll call and is likely will be our support to the Access Board for government responsibilities for the near future. So I wish the board the best. I thank all of you for your time and support of me, and I wish you the best in continuing a very important mission. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Randy, and thank you for your service and work that you've done. It's been gotten to know you over the last 4 or 5 years, and probably 6 by now. So you've been a pleasure and an asset to the board, and grateful for your service, and good luck with your next venture and adventure. So thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing good things from you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Rex Pace, Housing and Urban Development.
Space.
Yes, thank you so much. This is Rex Space with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The department just wants to express our appreciation to the Access Board. We collaborated on several presentations on residential accessibility in the past, I believe since the last meeting we had that was in town. And also would like to note that over the years, and I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of the other agencies here, we've collaborated with the Access Board and in particular with Bill Botten on many trainings. And we certainly have appreciated that and wish Bill the most and wish Randy also good wishes in his new role. And so it's just a time of change and we'll miss you all.
Thank you, Rex, for your kind comments to both of our colleagues. I too want to give a positive shout out to Bill Botten. I don't know anybody that knows more about recreation and what kind of a job, how lucky could you be when that's your job to be able to focus on recreation in life and to have that affect people with disabilities positively as Bill did too. So Rex, thanks for bringing that up again. And Bill, good luck to you. We certainly appreciate that. Any other federal agencies, comments, questions at this time?
You have Sloan Farrell, the Department of the Interior.
Yeah, I want to double down on Bill Botten leaving Access Board. We've worked with him, I guess, his entire career, and the outdoor developed areas has become substantially better. It needs improvement in some places, obviously, but that your all's guidance and his absolute work on the outdoor developed areas to put it in ABAS, we would be a lot further behind. And we really appreciate all the efforts he's given to help us answer our questions, to provide us training. We look forward to obviously seeing who replaces him. Unfortunately, it won't be Ray Bloomer. You all know, working in this field for a long period of time, Ray Bloomer from the National Park Service is retiring this year also, who's I'd argue is equally qualified as Bill in this particular area. And if you work with Ray at some point and at some point you work with him, you would know that as well. So as far as Department of Interior's situation, we're losing two individuals that have helped us a great deal, and me personally a great deal over the years. So good luck, Bill.
Thank you so much. Kind comments. Anything, anyone else on the agency, federal agency line? Well, thank you all. I think our ability to have great federal agency participation has made it work exceptionally well for the United States Access Board. So losing good people as they move on is a sad thing, but we also look to a new group and know that we're always here for everybody. We appreciate that. We'll now move on to our last item, and that's new business of the day. And that's, let me open up the floor to any of the members of the board for any new business that they'd like to raise for discussion, either now or in the future meeting. So of the full board, which, by the way, for the record, is on January 9th through the 11th, 2023. Hard to believe that, but January 9th, 2023 will be the next meeting of the board, and we'll now open it up for any comments about new business from the members of the board.
No hands. Oh, Alexis Kashar.
All right, Ms. Kashar.
Hello, just one issue I'd like to raise for possible discussion at the next board meeting. That'll be the issue of rulemaking on hotels and motels and places of temporary lodging, right? And how it relates to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. I'd like to revisit the rules therein and how we currently operate with regard to providing accommodations to this population.
Very good. Thank you. And we'll refer that to staff to help us manage our way through those concepts and questions as it goes to our staff to help create a template by which those discussions can carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Any other new business? All right. Seeing none, as I've indicated, January 9th through 11th, 2023 is our next meeting for the of the United States Access Board. And we look forward to everyone celebrating a good holiday season as it begins to develop. And we will see you all in, believe it or not, less than 2 months. Now at this time, it's my pleasure to ask for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of the day.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Dale and Dylan, and our captioner for the day.